Tammy here for today's Thursday business tip. And I was just recording some training for my business coaching group on how to use some different accounting software to keep up with revenue expenses. And I thought it would be a great thing to do a tip on because it is approaching the fourth quarter, which just means it's the last 3 months of the year. And so it's time that you really start thinking about making sure that you have all of your records up to date. So that means that you need to make sure that you know how you're going to capture all your revenue amounts and how you're going to capture all your expenses. And there's a lot of great ways that you can do it. So if you really can't afford to get something like a program such as QuickBooks or Xero, then you would want to at least use a spreadsheet to do that with. And you want to make sure that you're capturing all of the amounts that you need to. So let's take, for example, if you have revenue has to be everything that you have sold. So that also means that if you have actually gone through and traded something like we'll just take, for example, a wreath. If you traded a wreath for something else, guess what? That's revenue. You need to recognize the difference between what you're giving up and what you're getting. So if you gave up something that's more than you got back, guess what? That's revenue. So you really need to know what all your sources of revenue are. Let's say that you are selling signs and that you also get affiliate revenue from sending someone to a place such as Trendy Tree or Deco Exchange, then guess what? That's revenue. Let's say you have a YouTube channel and you're making a little money on that. That's revenue. If you are selling supplies, that's revenue. So anything that you're getting money from is revenue to you, and you need to make sure you're recording that. You want to do it, try to do it on at least a monthly basis, because if you don't, then at the end of the year, you're going to end up with a lot of work to do, and you're going to get really frustrated. Now let's talk about expense. So if you are purchasing anything that is going to be used in your business, that would be expense. If you have to travel, let's say that you have a business and you want to go to a class on social media marketing. Guess what? You get to write that off because it is something that will help you in your business. You get to take your mileage or your airfare, your hotel room, and half of your meals. So you want to keep track of all this. It's really important that you keep all your receipts, because if the IRS comes back and asks you for anything, they're going to want written proof that you have actually used that expense. You want to keep it in a separate account. It's much easier to prove to the government that you actually had that expense if it is kept in a separate account. There are other things that you probably wouldn't think of that are expense. If you use a room in your house and you only do business in that room, you get to write off that room. If the postage that you paid, the boxes that you buy, the paper, the toner you use in your printer, all of those are expenses that you can use to write off. If you donated something, so if you make wreaths or signs or whatever and you donated it, guess what? You get to write that off as an expense. You also want to make sure that you keep up with your inventory. So inventory is really only very important at the end of the year because you want to be able to move those expenses. I've talked about this in another video, so I won't reiterate that. But it's a really good idea to have an accounting program that can help you keep track of this so that it's not so overwhelming. There's a lot of really good ones out there. So one of the most popular for small business is QuickBooks. So I can tell you that I know QuickBooks really well. I'm a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, and there's a lot of ways that you can try and automate things through QuickBooks that make it a little bit easier. So you can connect your bank account, and it will bring in your revenue and expenses from there. And then once you classify them, if you have a utility bill, then QuickBooks is smart enough to know, okay, when it comes from this company, I'm going to put it here under utilities. So it can be a time saver. It can be a little bit confusing, but there are programs out there that you can watch to see how to do it. I'm actually training my group right now on how to use QuickBooks to do their accounting. There is an online system that's really great because you can access it from anywhere. It's just a web address. It's cloud hosted. You don't have to put it on your desktop. Now, of course, they do have desktop versions. So really, the great thing about the online version is it's a little bit more simplified, and you don't have to update it when they have new versions come out, because they have a new version every year. With the desktop version, you do eventually have to update it, because if you don't, you're not going to get all of the updates that you need. They have payroll already attached if you actually have employees. They also have a system where you can file your quarterly returns for your payroll. So if you do have employees, you actually have a module where it will keep up with your payroll, and then you essentially just push a button to file your taxes quarterly. So it's really not difficult at all. It's not difficult to set it up. There are some other programs out there. If you're going to be in business and you want to take it seriously, you really should invest in either having someone do your accounting for you or having a program to keep up with it yourself. There is another program out there that's really great. It's called Xero. It's actually Xero, and it is very much like QuickBooks. It's also simple to use. It is a little bit less expensive than QuickBooks. However, their updates are not quite as often. So you do kind of have to evaluate which one you'd rather have. They're both good programs. They're both reasonably priced, and it's a great idea to have it. If you really can't afford that at all, especially when you're first starting out, then it's a good idea to at least keep up with it in a spreadsheet like Excel. Or, of course, if you have Apple products, then their numbers is very much like Excel. So you want to keep up with it. So we're heading into the fourth quarter, and that is when people who are, especially people who have craft type businesses where they actually have the biggest revenue generations going on in the fourth quarter. And a lot of that is because, and it's actually true for almost anybody who sells products, because you're going into the holidays, and this is the time when people are really going out and looking for things to spend their money on. So they're going out looking for Christmas presents, birthday presents, and this is the time of year where you can make and generate the most part of your revenue. So it's a smart idea to have already been capturing your revenue throughout the year, so that when it comes to the end of the year, it's not such a difficult task. Another great thing about using a program such as QuickBooks is that it's very easy to take the expenses out in order to do your taxes at the end of the year. They actually even have programs that you can import your information from QuickBooks right into a tax program that makes it a lot faster. So you have to decide whether you want to do it yourself. There are a lot of programs that you can get online that will help guide you through taxes. It's not difficult to find. You can get them anywhere from TaxAct to H&R Block, and they really have their system down pretty well. You can even get audit defense for not a whole lot more that will kind of help protect you in case you did make a mistake on your return. Another great option is just to hire someone who does taxes. So you would want a CPA preferably, or an enrolled agent. That is just someone who's been through special training with the IRS in order to do taxes. So you definitely want to either use a program that will walk you through it or use a professional. Of course, the difference is the price. So the online versions, you can run between $35 and probably $70 for doing a return. And with a professional, it's going to be more in the $300 to over $1,000 range, just depending on, what shape your books are in, which is another reason why you should use a program, and how much you have. So do you have a lot of expenses? What kind of company do you have? Those are all factors that CPAs use to determine what price they're going to charge you. So it's important things to know. My advice would be that when you are starting to make money, that you either invest in a desktop version or an online version of an accounting software to start out with. As you start to grow a little bit, you can actually hire someone to do that for you. A bookkeeper is really all you'll need. You don't really need a CPA to do that for you. There's tons of people out there who have who have years of experience doing bookkeeping that are not going to charge you nearly as much as a CPA. So really, when you are paying a CPA service, if all you're doing is getting your books done, then you're really paying for way more than you need. At the end of the year, if you don't want to tackle your own taxes, then by all means, I would suggest you use a professional. So I hope this helps you, and I just want you to keep in mind that you do need to think about these things as you're going throughout your year. And remember, there's a lot of things that you can write off, and if you're unsure about it, you can leave a comment below and I will be happy to answer it. Also keep in mind that I do have a monthly coaching group that I have, and I am showing all of my members how to start and run a successful business. There are so many factors that go into running a successful business, and it's really important that you know what those are, because you can get yourself in trouble if you don't know exactly what you're doing. So it's a good idea to have a coaching group like this. It really does help a lot. I also have built a great community, and I think it's very helpful to have a community and to get some of that networking. My group is small, and it's going to stay small so that I can make sure I can service all my members. The last thing I want to do is to put more people in there than I can help. So that's not going to be something that's going to be a factor in my group. So with that in mind, there is going to be a point where I will close it, and I will not reopen it unless we have attrition, so people leaving. But I hope you have a wonderful Thursday, and I will see you next Thursday for another business tip. If you have something specific that you would like me to do a tip on, make sure to leave it in the comments below. And have a wonderful and blessed day. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.